Today, we'll look at how we can use head-heart thinking to realize our potential, to become who we really are, who we're meant to be, to go for our dreams and back them up with solid actions. We can wrap this up and call this self-actualization. What is self-actualization? It's a top-level need in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Let's quickly look at the model. Maslow's hierarchy of needs states our 5 human needs and their order, from the lower basic needs to the higher, more complex needs. Our first level of need is physiological. We need to have food and water to survive. When the physiological need is met, we need safety and protection. For example, a shelter and job security. The third level is love and belonging. We want to be connected with others. The fourth level is esteem. We want to be respected and recognized. We want to be successful. And the highest level is self-actualization. This is where we realize our full potential, create value with our talents, and live our very best life. So, what is head-heart thinking and how can it help us self-actualize? Head-heart thinking is a new way of thinking and living that allows us to harness our human potential by letting our head and our heart work synergistically. The concept of head-heart thinking comes from recipe 5 of my book, 8 Recipes for Life. In the book, head-heart thinking is referred to as head-heart dualism. 8 Recipes for Life is a self-help book with 8 life lessons that help people live more happily and find more fulfillment. It's written by my partner Pete and myself. Together, we're known as PETLO. Since the publication of 8 Recipes for Life, PETLO have evolved into a hypnotherapy and self-help shop. Apart from the book, we offer downloadable hypnosis products that help people deal with all sorts of problems, from COVID support to stress to weight loss to confidence issues. They're available on our website, petlo.co.uk. In order to understand this new way of thinking and living called head-heart thinking, we need to first look at our current polarized world. Our world is polarized. We have head-based people, people who are very logical, rely a lot on what they can see in the external world. They like science and fact. And we have heart-based people, people who are more intuitive. They trust their gut feeling. They may believe in a higher power and are maybe interested in the law of attraction or other more spiritual means of getting results. Even within ourselves, we experience this polarity. Sometimes it feels like a tug of war between an angel and a devil. What we tend to do is to let them have a fight, and whoever is stronger wins. With this strategy, we are overpowering and silencing one side. The disadvantage is that we're not using all the resources we have because we're chucking away one side of us. This traditional way of letting our head and heart fight results in minimal energy level. Let's look at this table adapted from 8 Recipes for Life. It shows a case where the head and the heart fight. Let's say our heart wants to set up a business. Our head doesn't because of the risks. If we let them fight, because the head is stronger, the head has 8 units of energy invested into this, we won't go ahead with a business. Nothing in our life changes. Apart from every now and then, maybe at the back of our mind, we're thinking we might have missed an opportunity. That's a 5 units of energy from our heart that our head is countering. The remaining energy we have is 3 units. But if they work together, we would dive deeper to uncover more information. If we listen to our head, maybe it will tell us it's risky because we lack the experience and we're not very good at selling. Now that we know what the risks are, we can find ways to tackle them. Maybe we can start a side hustle, providing services to our friends and family first, and maybe we can spend some time learning how to sell. This is not to say it will always work out, but we have more options than meets the eye. And when we're going for these options that fulfill our heart's desires while addressing our head's objections, we will have both their support, which results in a much higher energy level. In this case, it could be 13 units. The number 13, which results from 5 plus 8, is not definite, but probable. It's not definite because these numbers could change when more information is uncovered and more options become available. It's probable because we're likely to convert the amount of energy we expend to resist an idea, in this case it's 8 units, into supporting it when our reasons for resisting no longer exist because the concerns have been addressed. It is like customer complaints. When a customer complains, they are unhappy. But if their complaints are dealt with well enough, these customers often turn into advocates. In just the same way, we can channel our energy from resisting an idea into supporting it if we address the concerns well enough. The point of this table is that when we let our head and heart fight, we have minimal energy left. But if we let them work together, we can have maximum energy and we open up different options. When we have more energy, we're likely to have more purpose in our life. We're likely to feel more satisfied and content. We'll feel more alive and fulfilled. That's what having more energy will do for us. We can get on and achieve the things that we really want. Here's the thing. Letting our head and our heart fight isn't too bad when we have an outcome. The worst is when our head and heart are equally strong. This is when we cannot come up with a conclusion. We won't have an outcome and it's extremely tiring. Imagine arguing with a friend on a topic you feel strongly about. Every time you talk about the topic, you argue incessantly. Now imagine living with this friend. How tiring will that be? That's what happens when our head and heart are equally strong when they're against each other. We have a fight with ourselves 24/7. What we want instead is for our head and our heart to be on the same side, helping us achieve a common desired outcome. In order to achieve this, we need to be like a good manager. A good manager delegates effectively. At work, when we want to maximize the use of time and resources, one of the things we can do is delegate, which means we got the right people doing the right stuff. A good manager delegates different jobs to the team members depending on their strengths. We can do that with our head and our heart as well. When they're doing the right thing they're suited for, we can maximize the use of our resources within ourselves. Our head and our heart are good at different things. Our heart is good at seeing the big picture. It's intuitive. Our head is good with details. It's logical and can come up with solid steps that lead us to our goals. In order to delegate effectively to our head and our heart, we need to understand this. The heart works best with positivity. Because it's uncritical, it accepts everything as true. The head works best in processing negativity. Because it's critical, it can often come up with solutions to counter the obstacles. The negativity can trigger the critical ability of the head. The head can then come up with constructive actions we can take to counter the negativity. This is so important, I'm going to repeat. The heart works best with positivity. The head works best in processing negativity. It's time we move away from polarity thinking into head-heart thinking. There are two types of polarity thinking: positive polarity thinking and negative polarity thinking. Positive polarity thinking happens when we simply listen to our heart's desires and ignore our head's concerns. The positivity from the heart spills over to the head, resulting in both our head and our heart being positive. An important thing to note is that when positivity enters our head stops functioning. Our head is triggered by negativity because it's good at problem solving. Here is where we say to ourselves, think positive, just go for it. The concerns won't necessarily materialize. I'll just forget them so I can manifest a great positive outcome. And sometimes the head doesn't even have anything to say to start with. No concerns, nada. It never had any concerns because it was never engaged in that matter at all. I was in this situation myself. In 2017, when I got fired, I finally started writing my book. I know that writing this book is my purpose, and I believe when I've done it, my work on earth will be done. The book will sell off the shelves and become an instant success. So I start my project. My family, although they're supportive, aren't completely on board with me. They're concerned that authors don't make enough money to sustain their living. One of my sisters says, "Why don't you find a day job and write the book in your free time?" I dismiss the idea right away. My other sister reminds me, "Making money from a book takes time. You should think of other income streams in the short term." I think to myself, "You don't understand. This book can change the world. It will sell so quickly and in such volume as soon as it gets published." Then the book comes out. It hasn't become an overnight success as I thought. Like most authors, it hasn't been selling enough copies to sustain my living yet. Looking back, if I knew then what I know now, first, I would have been much more careful with how I spent my money. And secondly, if I wanted the book to be a success upon launching, I should have had a clear plan of action in selling it. I didn't. I didn't engage my head. I engaged my head in writing the book, but I didn't engage my head in planning to sell the book. I didn't treat it like a business. I didn't know how the book business worked, and I didn't inform myself. I was acting like a naive artist, thinking that if I've got a great book, somehow it will sell because somehow, people will know about it magically, somehow, somewhere. And I've also forgotten that life always has a way of surprising us. But I digress. So let's go back to polarity thinking. We've just looked at positive polarity thinking. Now let's have a look at negative polarity thinking. Negative polarity thinking happens when we blow up the concerns in our head and suppress our heart's desires. This is where the negativity from the head spills over to the heart, resulting in both our head and our heart being negative. We may say to ourselves, "No, no, 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 no. There are too many problems. It's difficult. It's not worth it." In both of these scenarios, we're not being the good manager who delegates effectively. We're letting one side of us, either head or heart, lead the other side and not doing a very good job because they have no idea that their colleague is wired differently and have a different skill set to theirs. Before we go forward, let's get this out of the way. Head-heart thinking is not about balancing the head and the heart. Balancing is where the weight of one side counters the weight of the other side. Head-heart thinking is about the head and the heart cooperating in synergy towards a common desired outcome. Now that this is clarified, let's move on. So polarity thinking is where we're either purely positive, where both our head and our heart are positive, or we're purely negative, where both our head and our heart are negative. But instead of being purely positive or negative, it's possible to mix and match, as shown by this matrix. Let's take a look at each quadrant. Quadrant 1. When positivity goes to the head, we easily become cocky and take actions that are reckless. Quadrant 2. When negativity enters the head, we can become resourceful and come up with constructive actions to take. Quadrant 3. When positivity goes to our heart, we feel calm and hopeful. Quadrant 4. When negativity enters our heart, we feel defeated and fearful. It follows that the best combination is a positive heart and a negative head. Now, this is really important to know. The head is not negative per se, but is dealing with the negativity by being resourceful and coming up with constructive steps. So we want our heart to stay positive and our head to deal with the negativity. Positive heart, negative head. This is head-heart thinking. By the way, this picture we saw earlier with an angel and a devil talking to us, it's not that our heart or our head is the angel or the devil per se. It's when our head or heart takes up a job that is unsuitable for them that they become the devil. When our head is positive, it becomes a devil because it leads us to be reckless. When our heart is negative, it becomes a devil because it takes away our hope. When they're in the genius, they're always the angel. So positive heart and negative head will look like this. If we have a goal but we're struggling between I can and I can't, create value with the I can't. Knowing our limitation is great because we cannot fight what we don't know. I was traveling on a Segway tour. While we're getting familiar with driving the machine, the instructor said, "The important thing is to keep your eyes wide open. If we can see it, we will expect it, and we can handle it. An unexpected small debris can throw off even the most experienced Segway user. Expectation is the key." Keep the I can in our heart. Have so much self-belief that nothing can crush us. Keep the I can't in our head. Ask ourselves, what can we do to break through it? If we want to lose weight because we want to become healthier and fitter, but we've failed multiple times in the past, ask our head, what made it not work in the past? We may find out that we didn't follow through because we lack determination. What will increase my chances of following through this time? Maybe I can create a plan with milestones and rewards so I can have more fun on the journey and stay motivated until I reach my goal. Sometimes we won't find the end solutions right away, and our head may tell us to speak with other people or use Google to find some tips or inspiration. The idea is simply to be resourceful by using our head. When we keep the I can in our heart and the I can't in our head, we are more likely to stay motivated until we reach our goal because we don't see setbacks as failure. We see them as feedback, and we work with our head to overcome them. Like what all successful people do. Now, some of us might be thinking, success? I thought success was an esteem level need, not a self-actualization need. Indeed, you're right. And head-heart thinking can actually help on both the esteem and self-actualization levels. Don't worry about being head-based or heart-based. It's not about balancing. Balancing is 50-50. Let's say we successfully get past the initial decision-making stage and decide to give it a try, whatever the endeavor is. If we believe 50% we can do it, and think 50% that we can't do it, we'll likely only have 50% intention to make it work. And we're probably going to take about 50% action to make it work. Is that a recipe for success? Certainly not. And then we fail, and we say to ourselves, see, I knew it, 50% chance only. But did we fail because we saw through the situation clearly? Or did we fail because we weren't 100% committed into making it work? Get off that seesaw. Head-heart thinking is about letting our head and heart work synergistically. 100% head, 100% heart. Here is where we are 100% committed into making our endeavor work. We believe 100% that it will work, and we take 100% solid actions into making it work. That happens when we keep positivity in our heart and let our head deal with the negativity by coming up with solutions. It's about compartmentalizing positivity in our heart and negativity in our head. If you identify as head-based because you're logical and you're generally optimistic, you are already doing head-heart thinking most of the time. If you're more of a heart-based person and you generally achieve your goals, you're probably using your head effectively too, which means you're also doing head-heart thinking most of the time. If we tend to be pessimistic, maybe we can cultivate positivity in our heart so we can enjoy life more and make more out of our lives. If we tend to be overly optimistic, maybe we can consider more the flip side of matters in our head so we can be more prepared when obstacles come in the way. Positive heart, negative head. Head-heart thinking motivates us to go for what we truly desire and back it up by solid actions. When we're going for our dreams, it's inevitable that we'll experience setbacks. From time to time, negativity will enter our heart and we'll experience negative feelings. That's part of being human. Whenever that happens, we can use the FAST method to deal with negative feelings constructively and restore the head-heart thinking homeostasis. If you've watched my other video, How to Face Problems with Poise, you will already be familiar with the FAST method. Let's say it's fear that we're feeling. Instead of suppressing it because we want to be positive, use the FAST method. Step 1. Feel the fear. When we connect with it, we can influence it. Step 2. Acknowledge it. It has a positive intention. It wants to protect us. It might not be doing its job very effectively, but it has a good intention. So acknowledge it. When we acknowledge it, we'll also find ourselves releasing the fear. Step 3. Send it to the head. The head can deal with negativity well. The negativity triggers the head's critical ability, so it can do step 4, which is translating it into empowered actions. What can we do with what we have from where we stand? Taking empowered actions is like buying insurance. When we have done that, we can remove a source of concern. That's when we release more or even all of the fear. We can use the FAST method for other negative feelings too. If we're feeling annoyed or angry, feel the annoyance or anger. Acknowledge and release it. Send it to the head. Translate it into empowered actions. Let's look at an example of an empowered action. If we're annoyed because somebody broke their promise to us yet again, instead of letting our feeling cloud us and lash out on that person, we can assert ourselves and have a civilized conversation to make sure future arrangements will be acceptable. Asserting ourselves in a civilized manner is an empowered action. Being clouded by our feeling and lashing out on somebody is not an empowered action because it hasn't been processed or translated by the head. If we're feeling guilty, feel the guilt, acknowledge and release it. Send it to the head. Translate it into empowered actions. An example could be making a verbal commitment to do the right thing in the future. If we feel sad, feel the sadness, acknowledge and release it. Send it to the head. Translate it into empowered actions. We feel sadness mainly when there is a loss of some sort. So when that happens, empowered actions might include celebrating the existence and doing something to create closure, like writing a letter to the person whom we might have lost. That person doesn't even need to read it. The letter serves as a closure for ourselves. A thing to note about the FAST method: the release of the negative feeling happens in step 2 when we acknowledge it, and again after we complete the 4 steps in the method. If we apply this method every time we have a negative feeling, we'll find ourselves better and better at releasing, that we may release the feeling to completion without even being aware of it. Knowing how to deal with our negative feelings is important because it helps us stay on track instead of being thrown off by the feelings. If you want to self-actualize, make head-heart thinking your way of living so you can harness your potential and live your best life. Just remember, stay positive at heart and let your head process the negativity. And if you want some extra support, why not try our Now Achieve Your Goals hypnosis download? Hypnosis engages our powerful unconscious mind so we can achieve our goals with the least resistance. You can find the link to the product in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've got something out of the video. If you've got any feedback or comments or questions, or if you just want to contact me, there is a contact form on our website, petlo.co.uk. I look forward to hearing from you and see you next time. Bye!